I'm Shay O'Reilly. I work for Spring Street Climate Fund.
And how did that begin? How did you get involved with them?
Yeah, so Spring Street, we were founded in the early 2020s as a philanthropic organization that mostly grew grants to campaigns that make a difference on climate emissions in New York State, but also set a precedent in the country and world for climate policy. Over the years, we realized that there was a need for more hands-on campaign assistance, basically, so people to help out with those campaigns on the ground with our coalition partners, and so they brought me on in November, along with my colleague, to work on two of our priority campaigns, which in this case is New York Heat and Local Law 97. When you're trying to make a policy change happen, you need a mass of people behind you, especially when you're going up against big business, which polluters are big business. And so you need to get that mass of people together, and that involves community education, which means going door to door. It involves lobby meetings. It involves big open organizing meetings and community meetings, public education about policies, ad campaigns, rallies with elected officials, new reports that detail the impact of policies, kind of all of that stuff. So I'm exploring some of that right now, looking into different groups of people who have that skin in the game, whose lives, homes, businesses are going to be impacted by the transition, and trying to help bring them together and find places where we can make an impact. The challenge in achieving them is that people aren't knowledgeable about the system that we have. And that's for a reason, right? Like, people don't understand the workings of the electric system because A, it's really complicated, it's hard, we all have other things to do with our lives, and then B, like, we've set up a regime of regulatory policies that are accessible only to technical people. And that benefits a lot of people. It benefits some of the utilities, it benefits some of the stakeholders, it benefits some of the shareholders, and it benefits some of the kind of apparatus we've developed, but it doesn't necessarily benefit everyday people. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that is that kind of consciousness raising, that education, some of that agitation is really important so that people realize, hey, this is how our energy system impacts my life, and this is how my life could be different if we made it better. We support Local Law 97 because it is a world-leading law, right? It says you have to reduce emissions from buildings, knowing that buildings are such a key part of our emissions landscape in New York. When I've been talking to people, I hear three challenges, and these are everyday New Yorkers who are shareholders in co-ops, for example, who are trying to figure out how to meet these requirements. These are people mostly who believe in climate change, who know that we need to take action on it. And they say there are three challenges that we face. The first challenge is knowing what we have to do to comply. And that's something where the accelerator is super helpful. They can point out, here are some pathways for compliance, here are some firms and contractors who will help you do that analysis. The second step is paying for it, right? A lot of these improvements, they have an upfront cost. Even if they pay themselves back over time, that financing is not available to everyone. And so that's where we start seeing people, those challenges coming through, and where people can really make a difference in advocating for better policy. And then the third category I'll say is, like, technically we still need some improvements in some of the technology, right? I think we realize we can't snap our fingers and tomorrow suddenly there'll be no emissions in any of the buildings, but over time we'll have better technology, we'll have better, window units for window unit heat pumps, stuff like that, that will be accessible for people, or that will come with fewer electrical improvements needed for the building in order to bring down those emissions. So ultimately, what do politicians care about? They care about getting reelected. They care about remaining in power. And so you need to prove to them through your actions that you are organized, that you are a constituency, and that their future in electoral politics resides in how well they accede to your demands, right? Like, politics is oppositional, that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. Politicians are very nice people, and also, like, our job is to push them harder. But you could also come together with your neighbors, and you can start planning a campaign. You can think about, like, what are the policies that would help us, say, meet the needs of Local Law 97? And then you can come up with that outline, and you can think about, how do we get those on people's agenda? Do we go to a friendly politician first and have them introduce a bill? And then can we find people in every single district and get them to support the bill, go have lobby meetings, and also start doing public events with politicians who want to be there saying, like, look, I'm standing up for my constituents, this is what's important to them. And if you build that power, you can actually pass legislation. That's how we've passed legislation at the state level as well. The All Electric Buildings Act, which started in New York City and is now statewide, that was done by committed citizens coming together and saying, like, this is the agenda, this is what we need from our politicians to be leaders on climate, and we're going to push you until you do it. It's very real that the consequences of going beyond 1.5 degrees of warming are catastrophic for many people around our world. But in the end, every single solar panel that we build, every wind turbine that we build, every fossil fuel power plant that we shut down, every gas stove that we replace with induction, like that actually matters. Every 1/10 of a degree means avoiding human suffering. And so it's never too late. And it's also definitely a lot too early. And so we need to do everything that we can to keep pushing and keep fighting for a livable future.